Awesome, thank you. Once again, welcome everyone to First Impressions Matter using Liquid Syllabi, a spring 2023 Flex workshop. I am joined here by Amanda Paskey and Greg Beyer to talk about how to use Liquid Syllabi in your courses and why you might want to do that. Amanda, why don't you get us started on the what we're planning on doing today, and I'll mute.
Absolutely. So our plan today is to give you a good sense as to what a liquid syllabus is, in case you've never heard the term. We're going to talk to you about some of the advantages of using a liquid syllabi, the formats liquid syllabi can take, and then we're going to introduce you to the CRC accessible Google slide template for a liquid syllabi and give you a chance to play around in there and ask some questions and start building your own liquid syllabus. Jenna, do you want to tell them about what this QR code is?
Yeah, sure. So I've done a couple of things on this slide. One, I've given a link, a bit.ly link, which is a shortened link to our slide deck. I also placed it in the chat. Providing a bit.ly like this is really helpful because it's a shorter link that people can manually type in. And if they're watching this recording later, they have that shortened link that they can use to access the slide deck. Or you can use the your mobile device to capture that image of the QR code on the screen, and it will take you to the slide deck on your mobile device. I believe you can also use a screen capture feature on your desktop computer to access through the QR code as well, if you have that capability.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, just pop them in the chat and we will try to answer them when most appropriate. So if everybody is ready, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, Jenna.
We're so organized. I forgot. So we are towards the end of, towards the latter half of this workshop. We are going to introduce a template for a liquid syllabus. And if you are interested in using a liquid syllabus in your course and you would like access for your very own copy of the Google Sites template, then please use this link or QR code to complete the form. And Greg will do his best to generate a copy of the syllabus for you while we are giving this presentation in real time.
Thanks, Greg, again for doing that. Okay, so you might be wondering what a liquid syllabus is before you commit to oh, gotta go back, hold on. Before you commit to that link and sign your life away to get that template. So let me give you an overview as to what, oh my goodness, I'm 3 slides ahead. Let me give you an overview as to what a liquid syllabus is. A liquid syllabus is a living document, one that you can edit in real time, that students will have access to the latest and greatest updates that you have done to it. It is something that is easily shared with your students through email. You'll see later on that one of the bullets is that it's not shared through Canvas. So a lot of students have barriers accessing Canvas, especially before the semester begins. We don't always publish our courses until right before the semester starts or even into the first couple days of the semester. So this is something that students will be able to access via their email. You can send it through PeopleSoft. It is just an easier way for students to get some information about your course. It is a great pre-semester communication tool. I sent my liquid syllabus out to my students on January 2nd this year, and it just allows you to start a conversation with the students about what your class is going to be about, what expectations you have of them, and to let them meet you. I use a liquid syllabus as a preview for your full syllabus. There are people who try to use a liquid syllabus as their complete syllabus for their course. However, here at CRC, we have had some communication back and forth with the administrators that this type of document is not something that you would necessarily be able to turn in to your admins for the syllabus requirement, but you can convert it into something that you could submit. So the way I use a liquid syllabus in my course is it's a snapshot of what they are going to see when they get the full syllabus when our course begins. One of the things that I like most about a liquid syllabus is that it's easily accessible on multiple types of devices, including it's mobile friendly. And we'll show you an example later on. And if you use the Google Sites template that we're sharing with you, you can actually preview what it looks like on a phone versus a tablet versus a full-size computer screen. And that's kind of cool because, you know, not all things that we create are mobile friendly. And so this, again, is breaking down a barrier and allowing all of our students, regardless of how they are interacting with our course, to get the information. And while we know that it's best to access, especially online courses with a computer, not all of our students have that ability. So it's just, again, another way to get that information to everyone. And then we already talked about it being emailed. The last thing is it's a way to humanize you and your class. So your students want to know who you are and that you're not just a robot, especially if you are teaching an asynchronous online course. They want to know that there's a real person back there who is reading their work, who is interacting with them. And this is a way to do that. This is a way to introduce yourself to them, introduce your class to them, and just make it a more friendly place to be when the semester actually officially gets started. So why might you use a liquid syllabus? Well, the first thing that it does is it sends a message to your students that you care about them. Students will start the course with a feeling that they are supported by a real live person, that's you. It helps to build trust and safety for the students before the course begins. And research has shown that the week before the term begins is a time of really incredible opportunity to mitigate any uncertainty students might feel as the semester is starting to creep up on them before it begins. And this is especially felt by students that are racially, ethnically, or socioeconomically marginalized. So it's just a way to put yourself out there and to say, hey, it's okay, we've got this. Typically, liquid syllabi use very encouraging language and are very welcoming. And it's just a really nice way to get started with your course. On that same note, it also reassures your students. By giving your students an early preview of the course, even if the information that you're sharing with them is incredibly brief, but by giving them some information about what to expect from you, what you expect of them, what the course is going to be talking about, maybe a preview of some assignments, maybe even some early due dates that are coming up, it helps to give them a sense of calm and reassurance and answer a lot of those nagging questions that they have in the back of their brain that's making them nervous about the start of the term. Which then brings us to the third reason why you would use a liquid syllabus, is that if you've answered all of those nagging questions that students have in the back of their brain before the semester starts, by sending out a liquid syllabus, you've lessened your email load. You don't have to be answering the same question 50 times from different students. When does our class start? What's the book that we're using? When's our first assignment? You know, all of those questions that we get, you've answered that in a document. I can't tell you how many emails I don't get because I send a liquid syllabus. My students send me thank you notes instead of, oh, this was great information. It was so nice to meet you, or, commenting on little things that I've included in there. So it's changing the type of interaction. It seems less frantic. And you're just starting the semester on a much calmer basis. So I've mentioned this a little bit, but what types of things are typically included in a liquid syllabus? Typically, they include a short, imperfect video featuring you welcoming your students. And I believe, Greg, you are doing a workshop later today on video. Is that right?
I am on how to make a video interactive using Canvas Studio. Thank you for the shout. I look forward to seeing you later this afternoon.
So I would recommend you go check out Greg's workshop later on today so that you can create this short, imperfect video. It's such a nice way to introduce yourself to your students by, hanging out in your backyard or wherever, in more casual clothes. And if you mess up, you mess up. Last summer, I was making one and my dog bit me halfway through because I wasn't paying attention to her, and I kept it in. And I mean, welcome to my life, right? It encapsulates everything about me. So a short, imperfect video. Brief course details. So I use them for all of my classes. I teach asynchronous classes and I also teach a class in person. So my in-person class has the details about when we're actually meeting on campus, what room, what they need to bring to class. And I've also included information about what happens if COVID stops life again, or what happens if they get COVID, or what happens if I get COVID. For my asynchronous classes, I pull out some of those details, but put in what it looks like to be an online student, right? So you change what types of information you need to share with them. Give them expectations of you, them, and for the course, right? And this is beyond the course description. What do you actually expect of them? What should they expect of you? How can they contact you? How often are you going to get back to them? Or how quickly, I should say, right? A lot of people include a list of initial due dates for assignments. It's not something I do, but some folks do that. Course policies, some folks include it, although they typically in a liquid syllabus are included in student-friendly language. So it's not the formal policy and regulations that we have on campus that you might find if you ended up going and talking to a VP because of disciplinary issues. This is got to turn something in late. Let's chat about it, right? It's those types of language that we're going to include that makes it even more welcoming. A lot of people include sports service information, so links and information for how students can get help from the library, from DSPS, from EOPS, financial aid, all kinds of different options. And then anything else you think it's important to share, right? It's really very open and flexible in terms of what you want to include. And there's lots of different formats you can use depending on your comfort with technology. Google Sites, I think, is the most popular version or option to use for this, and that's what I've used, and Jen is going to walk you through that in just a minute. But any other type of web page would work. Again, we're trying to look for something that's dynamic, that's editable, that's easily shareable through an email or a link. Some folks have used a blog. You could send a set of slide decks or some other type of presentation, an animated video. And then there's also some micro-publishing options such as Popular, S'more, and Track, which I've given you a link there as well. I thought that it would also be useful for you to see what my liquid syllabus looks like. And so I've got a link here that you can click on through. This is for a class that I am teaching this term. So you can see exactly what I've included built on the CRC accessibility template. So with that, let's send it over to Jenna.
Oh, okay, great. I was actually really hoping we could see yours first.
Oh, do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Sure. Sure. There we go. So this is, yep, this is how it looks like on a computer screen. And I can show you if you're interested in what it would look like on one of the other mobile devices. But this is my homepage. Here's my brief little video. Canvas Studio always captures me with the most lovely facial expressions, so I always pop in a different image. So this is from my course homepage that the students will see. I've got a message here. Information on how the class works. This is an asynchronous online course. And some contact information. And to be completely honest, a lot of the language here is directly from the CRC template that Jenna has created. So I just popped in my email address and everything else was the same. It worked very nicely. But you can see over here on the left, the navigation bar, you've got essential information about the course. So this is more than the course description. It's in real language that students hopefully will understand. It's got information about how the course transfers and why the course is important, which I think is really important for those of us who aren't teaching courses that students might instantly see as relevant to them, you know, beyond the math and the English. Got information here about the course textbook. And of course, down here at the bottom on all the pages are links to a whole host of different support services for the students. I've got the student learning outcomes here, but I've rewritten them in a way that makes it a little bit easier for students to understand what we're actually going to be doing in the course. I've included resources, when they should reach out to me, what my role is, and then how they can get help through Canvas. I've given them an overview of my grading practices. So I got the idea of second chances from my colleague Anastasia, so I have adopted them. And, you know, it's kind of like a late policy, if you will. Talk about how and when students will get their assignments graded, what their grade is composed of. And then you get really fancy, you get a pie chart down here in case they don't want to, in case they need to see it visually, we've got that option here. And then just a couple tips for success. Have some basic policies here, including my communication policy, which includes my office hours, what it means to attend and participate in an online course for this course, submitting, and then some information on netiquette. And the netiquette stuff was all built into the template, right? Remember, I'm just editing my stuff. I did very little of my own recreation. And then finally, I added a new page to this. I give students a bonus if they complete the college and life skills course. So I have a page on that where students can click the link to enroll themselves. So that is my liquid syllabus that my students have had since January 2nd. Is there any part anybody would like to take a look at? I mean, you do have the link so you can explore it on your own. Oh, we're good. Okay, well, very good then. Let me stop sharing. All right, Jenna, you want to take over?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Amanda, for showing us your syllabus. I think it really helps to see one that's live and in action. And Greg, how are you doing with the template requests?
I'm all caught up. I've got a few that have come in, and what I do. So those of you who haven't done it yet, basically I'm making a copy of it, right? And I have to transfer ownership. So this is a Google Docs thing. I transfer ownership to you. It's within Los Rios, and then I remove myself as a editor. So you are free to do whatever you'd like with it, and no one else will see it until you decide to share it.
Awesome. Thank you both. Okay, so actually, before we get started, I'm going to try something I've never actually done before. So I really hope that it works. I am going to launch a poll because this will help me determine what I should be covering in this second half of our workshop. So I'm going to launch the poll. Okay. Basically, I want to know what you already know about Google Sites, since the template that we're going to be talking about is a Google site, and your familiarity about working within the Google Suite, and then also your familiarity with web accessibility. So we'll go with that, and I'll give you all some time to complete it. I have the Jeopardy theme running in my head right now. Da, 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 da. All right, it looks like almost everybody has finished the poll, so I'll wait for 15 more seconds and then we'll close it. All right, so I'm going to end the poll now. Thank you all for your answers. And I want to share the results. Pretty sure this is anonymous. I think I set it up that way. Okay, so what it looks like is that most of you have already heard about Google Sites, but you've never created one. So that's very helpful. It sounds like most of you have some familiarity with Google Docs. We have a couple who live and breathe Google, my people. Okay, and then we've got, I would say, moderate to little familiarity with web accessibility. So that's great. I've got a whole guide and I can talk us through some of that stuff. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that poll. I'm going to close that down and I am going to share my screen. All righty. Okay, so this right now, what you're viewing is the template, the accessible template for the Liquid syllabus. And this template is built on the Equity and Culturally Responsive online teaching course that Amanda and Greg have offered here at CRC. And the reason that I wanted to go with this particular syllabus as a template is because it has some really excellent inclusive language in it that really sets the stage for culturally responsive teaching and equitable practices. So what you'll see on the syllabus looks very much like what Amanda has in her anthropology syllabus. So I'm not actually going to go through a lot of the details in terms of what's in the syllabus because she just went through that. But I do want to highlight a few things about the syllabus that may be different from other syllabi that you've seen before. The syllabus was created with, this template was created with accessibility in mind. And when I talk about accessibility, I mean the ability for learners and users to access web content. We're specifically talking about web content here, regardless of what sort of technology they're using or what their vision or their hearing is like. So for instance, this particular website is for the most part accessible to users who might be using assistive technology called a screen reader. A screen reader reads aloud what is on the page. And depending on the formatting of the page, you can make it very easy for a screen reader to navigate through that page, or it can be very difficult. So some common examples of things that are useful for screen readers to navigate a page are providing headings. These larger formatted text here are actually headings that the screen reader can use to skip around on the page. This video is accurately captioned, which is very useful for hard of hearing, our deaf and hard of hearing users. Also, the text has sufficient contrast for users who may be low vision or some form of color blindness, and the colors specifically have been chosen for those reasons. Also, I've avoided the use of underlining on this site, with the exception of when there is an actual link like this. You see here. And you'll also notice that each of the links has a descriptive name. And so instead of providing the actual Google Doc link here, https://sites.google.com, I've renamed that link so that someone who is quickly scanning the page, either with a screen reader or visually, they can locate those links and know exactly what the context is for each of those links. Okay. Oh, let's see. I think there were a couple of other accessibility features, and I have a guide for this, and we'll talk all about it. You probably noticed on Amanda's site that she had images, and the use of images is really great because it helps draw the reader in, it helps keep them engaged with the content, it provides them context for the content, but those images are primarily for the sighted users, correct? So we want to make sure that we're not excluding users who may not be able to view those images. And so we want to provide alt text for those. And I'll show you how to do that as well in the template. Okay, so now that you've got this template, as Amanda mentioned, there are a variety of ways that you can use the template. And my goodness, my menu is like, I'm on a tiny screen and I've got menus all over the place. Okay, so here we are in the actual syllabus in the edit area where we can adjust this syllabus. And I want to point out probably the most important part of this whole syllabus and what makes it, what will make it continuously accessible for you is the themes area. I created a theme that allows you to use all of this formatting. It's already been done for you. And it's called the CRC branded theme, and that uses CRC colors that are, and it uses the arrangement of colors, like dark gray text on white or white on a dark blue, and it's already done for you. So you don't have to edit anything. It'll automatically apply all those colors for you, which is pretty cool. But before, I'm going to back up here because I remember now in the survey that some of you mentioned that you're somewhat familiar with Google, but maybe not everybody is familiar with Google. So I want to go to my Google Drive, okay? And so all of you have a Google Drive. You can access it through the single sign-on page in Los Rios. So when you sign on using the Los Rios single sign-on page, it'll take you to the hub. And on the hub, there is, and actually, let's just do this right now. On the hub, there will be a Google Drive area. Let's log in. Okay, so here we see the Google Drive thing. And when I select that, that's going to take me to my Google Drive. But what you will notice is if you are in here, what you don't see as an option over on this side of the page is sites. There's no sites there. The sites are actually hidden in this little Google Apps icon up at the top. Okay, and so anytime you want to access your site, you won't find it in a folder. It'll be under sites. So when I select sites, that takes me to my own Google Sites dashboard, and it has a whole bunch of Google Sites on there. Like our CRC online teaching resources is a Google site, for example. And then you can select the one that goes for your course and work with it that way. So once you select it from the Google site, it will take you to this template, and then you get to customize it. And you will obviously want to add all of your own course information. You can add your own video in here, and you can add your own pictures. Let's say you wanted to add an image to this particular area right here. you can go in and you can choose like a different format for this section. Like, let's say instead of all text, I want to have it with a picture. And so it's going to add a section here where I can add my formatting and I can add a picture. And if I wanted to change the theme for this particular area, I would go into here and let me, wait a second. Why is it not giving me my theme here? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, why is it not? Sorry. Oh, here we go. I know why, because my menu is being blocked. Over on this far side, you can change this. So if you want it to be in the dark style, then you can edit that. You can choose your styles, okay? And then you can also choose your image from here by uploading or selecting an image you already have in Google Drive somewhere. It's all really handy that way. These buttons here, you can edit. These are the links at the bottom of each of our pages. You can edit those if you want to change the links for those. It's really, really straightforward. Every page has those links. Okay, so you can see them down here. So let's go talk a little bit about the accessibility for this. Now, this is my accessibility guide, and I want to actually share this guide with you. It's shared in the presentation, but I'm going to copy this link and share it with you all right now in the chat. Okay, and this document is going to, one, explain the basics of creating accessible Google or web content, but it also has sections to explain like each of the basic areas where accessibility, where you should be paying attention to accessibility. It's like a checklist, if you will. So the things that we can do when we are creating any content that is going to be available in a digital format is we can think about the way that we've structured the document or the Google site with headings, what kind of font we're using, the color of that font, how we formatted our lists using the list formatting toolbar, hopefully, what kinds of images we're using and whether or not those images have alternative text descriptions, and then our videos and ensuring that those have captions. The great news about the video captioning is that we have a captioning service with Los Rios, and your videos can be captioned through that. And that includes videos that you post on Studio and also videos that you would post on YouTube or any other player, frankly. If you give the raw video file to our captioning coordinator, they will get those videos formatted for you. So within Google, the Google Suite, when we're creating documents, when we're creating sites, anytime you create a content block, it usually, and a content block again would be, let me go back to my home page here. A content block would be anything like this here, or that section that I added down at the bottom. Like this is what we would call a content block. And it automatically creates sections in here, and you can actually edit those if you want. You can create, use something called a heading or a subheading. Generally, we only want one title on the page, and that should be the thing at the very, very top, right? That's our title. Anything after that, all of these other ones here, these are all, should be all formatted as headings or subheadings, okay? And that is, each of those headings is going to create essentially a navigational link for our screen reader users so that they can access different chunks or content blocks on the page in a very straightforward manner. And I would advise against changing the color of those headings and subheadings unless they've already been formatted that way because this particular orange color just happens to have sufficient contrast, but other orange colors will not have sufficient contrast. So try to stick to the colors that are already in there. Okay, so the heading stuff I've got in this guide, there's, you know, this description of how to add subheadings to your things with screenshots, and those screenshots happen to have alternative text on them. Maybe not the world's best because there's a lot of text in there, but they've got something. Font style and size. This is a big one because Google or any other editing software provides us with loads and loads of opportunities for creating fun fonts, right? Like, look at all these font options that we have here. Well, what we know about reading online is that users typically have the easiest time reading font that is called a sans serif font. That means that it doesn't have any of the little embellishments on the edges of the letters, like Times New Roman has all those little teeth and wings on the letters. When we're reading online, we tend to comprehend and get less overloaded when the font is very simple. And so in the Google website, the Google site template, I've tried to stick with font that is, one, aligns with our typography guide from the PIO office, but also one that will be accessible. So there's some guides here in terms of which font you should use on your site, and also a site minimum, a size minimum. Now, the cool thing about Google Sites is that, and with most websites these days, is that you can use the zoom feature and enlarge the text. I don't advise going down to like 10 or 11 because even with Zoom software, that can sometimes not be very visible. But a 12-point font is a good place to start. And then if the user needs to magnify that to see, I know that I'm finding that I have to zoom in now more than I used to on my websites. It's easy to enlarge that font without sacrificing resolution or anything like that. Okay, color. Color is something that we often want to use for emphasis in our course materials. Color is problematic though. Not everyone perceives color the same way. And in fact, not everyone actually senses color in the same way. And so it's a really good idea to avoid using color for emphasis unless you're also going to use some other form of emphasis like bold. So I've got an example of color contrast here that would be sufficient for low vision or colorblind users, and an example of insufficient contrast. And I know, especially in classes where we are teaching students how to annotate, we often use the highlight feature. And we want to remember that there are students in our courses that are either using screen readers or are colorblind or maybe have other vision challenges that are not going to be able to see those highlights at all. Screen readers do not tell you when something is highlighted. So just keep that in mind anytime you use highlighting in any of your documents, Google Sites or not, that the highlighting is often invisible to our students. So I've got, as I mentioned before, the Google site has been branded, has color themes that you can select whenever you are inside of a page. So if I've got all of you are blocking my thing. So once again, there's a color palette here, and I can choose what color palette I want to use that is based on the branded template that that is already included in your thing. And again, that has adequate contrast. So you won't have to worry about that as long as you stick with that. Okay, let's see. How was highlighting not recognized by screen readers? Okay, that's a great question. Well, on a website, screen readers are getting cues from the HTML code inside of the web page. But the HTML, depending on the screen reader formatting, like the way that we emphasize text, the color of the text, that isn't typical. Even some punctuation is not read by a screen reader. It just glosses over it because it's information overload. It's more information than necessary. Screen readers, however, usually will notify the reader, the person, that the text is emphasized by either italics or most frequently bold. So it will call out before the bolded text strong. And then it will, and then when that bolded passage ends, it will say end strong, and it will let them know. But highlighting isn't typically something that a screen reader user will pick up unless you are really clear with the students that they have to access the stuff in highlights. And then usually you could, if you really, really don't want to have it in bold, you could try putting brackets around that and letting them know that they need to turn on their features to read the bracketed text separately. But again, students using free screen reader software that is easily installed as a plugin on Chrome, that will never access that stuff. It just won't read it. So always a general rule of thumb is just include another form of emphasis like bold anytime you want to use highlighting. Oops, wrong one. That's my example. We'll look at that later. Okay, sorry, jumping around. Okay, so color contrast. Color contrast has already been taken care of in the template for you. However, if you want to add any images that you think may have insufficient contrast, you may need to use a third-party tool to evaluate color contrast. Again, color contrast becomes problematic for low vision users and those with a variety of forms of color blindness. The link on this document to the color contrast analyzer will allow you to download a tool on your computer. It works with both Windows and Mac computers, and you can use this tool to evaluate the color contrast of the text that you've chosen or the image that you have. One thing that is often a challenge with color contrast is when we are generating charts and graphs in Excel or Google Sheets, the color contrast, the choices that are on default are often of insufficient contrast to separate out. For example, if you have like a yellow or an orange and a red bar right next to each other, or a green and a red bar right next to each other, those could be invisible to some of our students. And so one, you want to try to avoid using red and green because that is the most common form of color blindness. Select only one of those colors, but you could also choose to use other ways to separate that out, either by labeling, as Amanda did in her pie chart, by labeling those, adding borders around each of the pie sections or the histogram bars, or even adding texture instead of the colors. Okay, so lists. I can tell you that when I started using Microsoft Office, I had never received any training and I had absolutely no idea how to use the styles ribbon or any of the formatting tools in Microsoft Office. And in fact, I didn't know how to create a properly formatted list until like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So in Google Docs, in Google Sites, and in any option, any other web formatting thing, you can add lists. And so you'll see if you click on the text in here, let's say I want to create a list out of these 2 items. I'm not going to add a dash and a space, okay? Although that did automatically format it. Go Google for being smart. You want to use the bullet or numbered list feature here, okay? Bulleted lists are good for unordered lists. So it doesn't matter what order it is in. Numbered lists you want to use for when you're trying to create a hierarchy or a clear workflow, or a list of things that people should know in order. Then you use numbered lists. Otherwise, just stick with the bulleted lists. Okay. Okay. Links are another one, and this information also applies to Zoom links. Okay. We want to typically, if you have a link like to your Zoom office hours and you want to add that into your Google site, make sure that you rename that link after you've pasted it in. So you paste in your Google link and then you can highlight it and you can rename the text. Or you can also type in my Zoom office hours link and then add the hyperlink to that after the fact. Key here is that students using a screen reader really don't want to hear www.zoom.edu/ and then all of those numbers afterwards. And that's what they will hear if we use URLs as our name for the links. So that just simplifies the reading process. Okay, and let's see, I'm getting near the end here. Images. I strongly recommend the use of images in your Google Sites and also on your Canvas pages. Images, as I mentioned before, are a really, really awesome way to engage users, to help provide context for your content, and also to help your course feel more inclusive and welcoming. Sometimes it's hard to gauge like what kind of message you're trying to send with your wording. We all know we've probably gotten an email and been like, what were they really trying to say there? If you add an image to go along with that maybe has a smiley face in it, it makes it a lot clearer that this is actually a positive. I'm trying to help us grow here. I'm not trying to penalize us. So those are just some suggestions. When you do so, make sure that you add a text description for that image. So for example, this particular image here has a text alternative. If I click on the image, right click, and then it will say, why am I not seeing it here? Oh, probably because it is hiding from my share feature. Oh, go away, menu. There we go. Alt text. Now we can all see it. We click that, and then there is a description. This same process works when we are inside of a syllabus. So let me find an image here. Okay, so here's an image. So if I click on this image and then I click on the more options menu, I can add alt text to this. And notice that I've placed, this is a decorative image because really it's not sending any really important messages. So when you have an image that is not essential for understanding the text on the page, and it is purely decorative, you can mark it as decorative and you don't have to add context. This particular example here with the Scrabble tiles, that actually has word in it. So we want to make sure that we add, even if it is decorative, we still want to make sure we add alt text because there is a word in it. Okay, and so I've got some guide here to show you how to use that. And then lastly, videos. As I mentioned before, we have a lovely and probably not lasting forever service that will provide captioning for our videos. So if you have videos in your course that you have created yourself or that you curated on YouTube, for example, you can get those captioned. Many of the videos that are available through our library databases are already captioned. So those are obviously a really great place to start looking, especially if you're looking for films or documentaries. But if you're using other teachers' instructional videos to help kind of supplement your own stuff, when you find those videos on YouTube, you can check to see if they're accurately captioned. On YouTube, it'll have a little CC button, a little CC icon next to the title, or you can select the video. Not working here. You can select the video. Let me look on the publish page. Nope, not that one. Well, this will work. So if we select this video and then we select CC, you'll see this English. Click for settings, and it doesn't actually have auto-generated written there, then you're good to go. If it has auto-generated, that needs accurate captions. The reason being is that auto-generated captions are not, they don't have accurate spelling, especially if you're talking about terminology. You definitely want to make sure that that terminology is correctly spelled, right? In biology, we have a lot of Latin terms, and YouTube auto captions used to make a complete mess of those. It's gotten smarter, but it still doesn't always spell things correctly. And so that's one really great reason why, if we want our if we expect our students to spell these words correctly, then we should probably provide them with captions that have accurate spelling in them, right? The other thing is that those auto-generated captions can be really distracting because they're on a constant flow. They like typing, and then it slips to the next line, and then it's type. And that can be really distracting for some users. So we want to make sure that we have the blocks of text that are there for a set period of time. And it makes it much easier for a viewer to read and see the video at the same time. Okay, I think that covers it for the accessibility stuff on the Google site. And the last thing that I wanted to show you for the Google site, and this is something that you can use yourself, is this wonderful preview feature. So once you've got your Google site and you're not quite ready to publish it yet, but you want to see how it looks on a student's phone, or how it would look on their site, because the students are not going to see it looking like this, right? So we can use this preview feature. So if I select the preview feature, it's going to open up the full website, the full Google site. And can you all see this menu down here that shows I've got options: large screen, tablet, and phone. So if I select this, I can see how this works on a phone. I can see how everything looks on the phone. I can even access the menu for going to the different pages, just as if I was on a phone. So it's a very cool thing, and it will help you if you've chosen like really big font and it's taking up the entire screen. It's really helpful to look and see what that would look like on a mobile device, because as many of you know, our students are accessing their content primarily through mobile devices these days. Not tablets, but just phones with really big screens. And the easier we can make it on those students to access the content from their mobile devices, the more likely they are to succeed. Okay, did I cover everything? Let's see. Let me go back to my presentation, our presentation here.
Jenna, there's some questions in the chat.
There are.
The first one
Perfect.
was about adding video, but the other one was if you could show them again how to show it on an iPad or something, a tablet and a phone.
Yes. Okay. So first, let's do the preview, and then we'll do the video. Okay. So here I am on a page in my Google site. It doesn't matter what page I'm on inside of my Google site. In the edit area, I go up to the top toolbar here, and there is a button that if I hover my mouse over it, it says preview. This button shows a little laptop and a smaller device. So when I select that, it will open up a published version of the site. And then down here at the bottom, this little black pillbox that you see here, when you click on it, it will give you the different options for viewing on a tablet, for viewing on a phone, and for viewing on a large screen like a laptop or a Chromebook. Any other questions about that part? Okay, so then I'm going to now exit out of the preview. And just going to go to a page, and down here at the bottom, I'm going to insert a video. And so, you know, there are various options that you can do. So I could choose to do a content block like this. And then for this, I can, if I do a content block that has text and then it has a little image, I can select, when I find this plus button, I can then select to do an image, or I can do YouTube. And if I select YouTube, it comes up with a search. Now, if I already know where my YouTube video is, that I have the share URL for that YouTube video, I can just type it in here. Otherwise, I could do a search. and that video, those videos will come up, and then I can select it and it will embed that video onto my page. Now, if I have a video that I have created myself using Camtasia and it's an actual MP4 file, a video file, you can also use that here. You can upload those videos to your Google Drive and it will play that video here on the page. So that's another option. It doesn't work with Studio though. You can't use Canvas Studio videos on a Google site because the Canvas Studio player is only available within the Instructure environment, which is the Canvas environment. However, if you have a video that a welcome video, let's say that you've recorded using Studio, you can download that video from Canvas Studio to your hard drive and then upload it here. So let me just delete that video for a second. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, and so if I wanted to do an upload, I could select a video from my computer. And so I don't think you can see here as a dialog box comes up from my actual computer and my hard drive, and then I can select that video and upload it there. All right, other questions? Oh, that was your question, Eddie, was the studio? Yeah, okay. So I recognize that that this was a crash course in Google Sites that really doesn't quite give you everything that you need to add to the Google site that you've got. Hopefully that accessibility guide will have enough how-to stuff to answer most of your accessibility questions. Google also has a whole guide on how to use their new sites. And there are also tons of YouTube videos out there about how to edit Google sites. Just try to keep in mind all those accessibility things that I downloaded into your brains just a moment ago. To finish, I wanted to provide you with a few other resources to share that you might find useful. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hang on just a second. Okay. Amanda, I'm having a little bit of difficulty. Do you still have the slideshow up for you? And if not, okay. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, on this slide, there are a couple of other examples of liquid syllabi that that you might find useful. The one that is my major fave is the Ethnic Studies Google site created by Fabiola Torres. Amazing person, and really she's the pioneer in humanizing online teaching, right, Greg? And so she has shared her ethnic studies Google site, and that link is there. And I can also pop it in the chat if you're not actually accessing the slide deck right now. And one thing that I love about this particular Google site is that she uses a lot of color in it, and it makes for a really playful and engaging website, but it's also accessible. So that's very cool. And there's another English example, and the one that the thing that immediately calls out to me when I land on this page is the imperfect video example. Janet's video is, there's background noise. She's clearly someplace where there's a lot of activity happening, and it's just like, who cares? I'm talking to you. And this is where I'm at right now. And so I think that's very nice. I'll place the links to both of those in the chat in just a moment. There's also an article that came out just recently, I think, on Inside Higher Ed about using liquid syllabi if you're looking for somebody else to give you reasons for why you might want to use this. And as part of a humanizing challenge offered by the Online Network of Educators, or @ONE, a couple of years ago, Michelle Pacansky-Brock created a self-paced Create a Liquid Syllabus course. And she shows you how to use Google Sites to create a liquid syllabus. I would note that some of the stuff in there doesn't address the accessibility things that I mentioned, which is why I felt it was so important to create that separate guide about accessibility on Google Sites. And Amanda has also added an article here about how using liquid syllabi can be an anti-racist teaching tool. So I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a link to this slide deck once again in the chat, and then you can access these examples at your leisure. So that's the link to the syllabus, and I'm not the slide deck, and I think that's just about it. So we have a few minutes remaining. If anyone has any questions for Amanda or I, or Greg, if you want to chime in about your use of liquid syllabi in your course, now would be the perfect time.
Thank you. And thank you for the excellent presentation. One of the challenges that has come up with liquid syllabus as the Google site, which we ran into actually at CRC, we've been using liquid syllabus for the @ONE equity and culturally responsive teaching class, right, for a while. And what we just did was actually included in that class. And that is that our use of technology does not always fit with the practices and procedures of our organization. And so we all know it's in our contract. We must provide a copy of our syllabus to our division office. That's understandable, no problem. Our division offices don't yet have the institutional capability to manage a liquid syllabus. So what I've ended up doing, and I've shared this, thank you for, what was that? No, that's from Jenna, something else. I've got a video. Basically, if you need a copy, well, we do need a copy to share with our division offices. Basically, we convert this liquid syllabus into a Google Doc and then make a PDF out of that, which adds unfortunately to me, it's not that much work, but it's a little bit of extra work we shouldn't have to do. So hopefully we'll be able to get our division office colleagues to accept the liquid syllabus as just a link. The purpose of collecting the syllabus, of course, is to comply with the contract, but I also believe it's nice that if a student goes to the division office and asks for a copy, they can get a copy from there. That makes sense. Why not give the student a link, which is what we'd be doing in our classes anyway. So that's a little wrinkle that's part of this. I really enjoy the liquid syllabus in the classes that I've used it with. I like the color, especially ethnic. Fabiola Torres's syllabus is wonderful, as Jenna mentioned. And so I'm looking forward to that perhaps being a little bit easier for us at CRC in the future.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for reminding me about your video. So I popped that in the chat there. So do you guys have any questions or any testimonials about using liquid syllabi in your own course, or how you think this might help you in the future? Yeah, Jordan.
Hi, sorry, my my video isn't working, so yeah, I have to figure out what's going on there. But I did have a question because I like your use of the slide deck, which I'm pretty sure is just Google Slides, right? Okay, so right now I record my lectures on YouTube, which actually brings me to another question. Sorry, I have two questions. Okay, so first of all, when I was at FLC, I was able to submit my YouTubes to that wonderful person that you mentioned, and they were able to do closed captioning for me. How do I do that here?
So your videos are still on YouTube?
They're on YouTube. I just have to sometimes like I go in and I update them a little bit. And so I've done that this time, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I use PowerPoint. If I update a slide, then I have to completely create a whole new video again. But still the whole thing then needs to be completely captioned again. And so I'm just wondering, where do I submit my new slides to get captioned?
I was just going to hunt down the link for the Los Rios captioning project.
Okay.
So that will take you to a Google site
Okay.
that has a link for the form for submitting.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll just make sure that I bookmark that this time so I don't lose it again.
Yeah.
And then, which brings me
Can I say one more
Yeah.
thing about that before
Yeah,
your second question, if you don't mind?
Yes. Yeah,
For
I'll
those
be-
of you who plan on using the captioning resources, the current funding for this project expires at the end of April, I believe. And they also are very adamant that instructors submit their requests in bulk, because we have very limited staffing to process all of these requests. So you will be unable to utilize this service if you plan on submitting your videos week by week. They would like to have an entire semester's worth of videos submitted at one time, and ideally all of your courses submitted at one time. Just keep that in mind. Okay, the next question.
That's good to know. I will try my best. I can maybe send them like 2 at a time or something, and we'll just see. If they deny me, then they deny me, and I'll just have to do the auto captioning route. Okay, so my second question was, okay, so because I record my lectures and my students watch them before coming to class, in the past, they always want like a PDF copy of my slides. But I think, and I'm wondering, I think you're going to say this as well, but I just want to check that I should actually convert my PDF to this link. I should be using like Google Docs link instead of PDF, because it's probably more user friendly. What they want to do, what most of them do, is they want to print them. And I don't know if that's easier using the Google Docs slide function or not. So that's, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you can figure out what I'm asking.
I think I understand. So one of the advantages of using Google Slides over PowerPoint for sharing presentations with students is that if you make an update to the PowerPoint present or to the Google Slides presentation immediately before, and you haven't posted and you've already posted the PDF, then the students don't get those updates. So that's an advantage of using Google Slides. Google Slides are also easier to share, and it gives students more freedom in terms of the way that they want to access them. If they are using a mobile device, they can easily look at Google Slides without having to have access to Microsoft Office 365 on their phones. So many students are going to prefer, I would think, a Google slide deck because they might not have to print it out. They can just reference it from their Google Drive on their mobile device. There is also the option of printing from a Google slide, from Google Slides, and you have the same basic printing options where you can tile multiple slides on a single page or include the speaker notes or what have you. Those options are all still available. And the last thing that I will note about providing a PDF is that if it's just a PDF for print only, then you're okay. But actually providing a PDF that students might want to look at or access with a screen reader, not going to be accessible. The PDFs that are generated by PowerPoint are not accessible to screen reader users. And the screen reader user might have a better bet accessing the raw Google slide deck as opposed to a PDF.
Can I add a comment on that?
Please.
So I don't see any of our librarians, our awesome librarians here. A couple of years ago, I got a phone call from one of our librarians who was extremely frustrated and asking me to tell all the other instructional faculty to demand that we don't give them PDF files for anything, because students would walk up to the reference desk to get help, right? That's why they're there. And they would be holding up their phones and they would be squeezing and pinching and trying to find out some information, right? This is nothing to do with accessibility, capital A accessibility. It's like lowercase. Can you actually read a PDF file on a mobile device? Because these are the devices our students always have with them. And so that conversion of a PDF file to a Google Doc, Google Slides, or whatever, makes things so much easier for students in all cases. Thanks for bringing that up.
Perfect, thank you. That's what I figured you guys were going to say, but it's really good to have the evidence behind why it's so much better. I mean, I just assumed that since seeing you guys do that I should update it. But yeah, that's really helpful to have the evidence.
Sure.
It'll make it click and have me do it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And if you have PowerPoints, they're easily converted into a Google slide presentation. All you have to do is just open it in Google Slides and
Yeah.
it becomes a Google slide deck.
I read that. I had to look it up online how to do it. But yeah, if you just download it into Google and then it just converts it. So that was really easy.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you can edit it. It's great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for attending. And if I don't see you in the next couple of days somewhere else, like on vacation, good luck with the beginning of your semester. You know where to find Amanda and Greg and I, and we're always happy to answer your questions.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful spring term, everyone.